Delving deep into the Trove archives, I typed in gold and the year 1851 to see what the local press was saying about this magnificent discovery that would go on to change our nation. So the local press, what was the local press in Bathurst saying in 1851 when Edward Hargreaves made his discovery of payable gold? Here's an article entitled Discovery of an Extensive Goldfield, published in the Bathurst Free Press on May 10, 1851. The existence of gold in the Wellington district has for a long time been an ascertained fact, but public attention has never until now been seriously drawn to the circumstance. A little temporary curiosity would occasionally be excited whenever news was spread abroad that old McGregor, the gold finder from that district, had passed per mail on his way to the metropolis, as was always believed, laden with auriferous treasure. This subsided. Nothing more would be heard of the matter for a long interval, then an occasional rumour that he had rejected some tempting offer held out by a Sydney jeweller or Wellington settler as an inducement to disclose the secret of the locale whence his treasure was derived. It is sufficient for the present purpose to state that the progress he made in life with no other ostensible means of earning money other than sheep herding and gold finding has always been regarded as presumptive evidence of his success in the latter vocation. The arrival of Mr. Hargreaves in Bathurst on Tuesday evening last, who, it was generally known, had been in communication with government respecting discoveries made by him of extensive gold deposits in our Cis-Montane region, has now brought the subject more prominently before the Bathurst public. On Thursday evening, he invited a few gentlemen to meet him at Mr. Arthur's Inn, with the object of communicating such information as he had obtained upon this interesting subject in his recent explorations, and the readiness and intelligence which he had displayed in answering the numerous questions addressed to him, showing satisfactorily that he not only possessed an intimate knowledge of gold mining and all of its branches, but was desirous of giving every possible information upon the matter connected with his visit. From the running conversation which had kept up for several hours, we glean the following particulars. Mr. Hargreaves, who has spent nearly 2 years at the California diggings, returned to this colony in January last, having, as he states whilst there, derived considerable information from the Mexican miners, whom he represents as by far the best and most successful diggers. Struck by the similarity of the geological formation and external physical characteristics of certain portions of his colony and the Californian goldfields, he was induced, at his own expense and on his own responsibility, to visit this and the neighbouring districts to institute a personal examination. His researches have been crowned with success. After riding about 300 miles so as to intersect the country at numerous points and spending from 2 to 3 months in the prosecution of his object, Mr. Hargreaves states, as the result of his observations, that from the foot of the big hill to a considerable distance below Wellington, on the Macquarie, is one vast goldfield, that he has actually discovered the precious metal in numberless places, and that indications of existence are to be seen in every direction. Indeed, so satisfied is he on this point that he has established a company of 9 working miners who are now actively employed, digging at a point of the Summerhill Creek near its junction with the Macquarie, about 50 miles from Bathurst and 30 from Guyong. Ophir is the name given to those diggings. Several samples of fine gold were shown to the company by Mr. Hargreaves, weighing in all about 4 ounces. The produce, he stated, of 3 days' digging. The amount thus earned by each man he represented as £4 8 shillings per day. But he observed that from want of practical knowledge and proper implements, he was convinced that nearly 1/2 of the gold actually dug had been lost, owing to the labour being performed in his absence. One of the samples produced was a solid piece, weighing about 2 ounces, and was found at the diggings attached to the root of a tree by Mr. John Lister, who was one of the company. Another sample consisted of small pieces, weighing from several grains to a pennyweight, all elongated and of various shapes, and a third of small flat particles, principally oval. The large piece, which appears as if it had been in a state of fusion, is intended by Mr. Hargraves as a present to His Excellency the Governor. The only process through which the above samples had passed was the washing, which had been performed by Mr. Hargraves himself. The principal localities mentioned by Mr. Hargraves where he discovered gold were Summer Hill, Guyong and Lewis Ponds Creek. He also found gold at Dubbo, below Wellington, which he stated to be in powder, fine as the finest flour. But so far as he could judge from the opportunities he had, it did not exist in sufficient quantity to pay for the necessary labour. From the nature of some of the country explored by him, he is of the opinion that gold will be found in mass, and would not be surprised if pieces of 30 or 40 pounds should be discovered. He had seen no country in California which promised metal in such heavy masses. The description of country he represents as not being desirable as a field of speculation. One or two occupied thereon might be lucky enough to find a lump, but their companions will expend much toil and probably obtain nothing, whilst the ground which yielded the dust or larger particles could be calculated upon as returning a certain remuneration for a given quantity of labour. We are assured by Mr. Hargraves that there exists an opening for an unlimited supply of labour in the vicinity of the diggings already opened up by him. But he holds out no florid hopes, he makes no unreasonable or exaggerated statements. His arguments and representations simply amount to this, that there exists in the neighbouring districts an extensive gold field, but whether a rich or remunerative field of labour he does not undertake to say. This question remains to be solved by actual trial. We have now given the principal items of information connected with this most important and interesting subject. In the statements made, we did not intend to incur any responsibility. We tell the story as 'twas told to us. The suddenness with which the announcement of a discovery of such magnitude has come upon us, a discovery which must, if true, be productive of such gigantic results not only to the inhabitants of the districts, but to the whole colony, affects the mind with astonishment and wonder in such a manner as almost to unfit it for the deductions of plain truth, sober reason, and common sense. Mr. Hargraves is an intelligent and educated, and we believe a respectable man. His manner is quiet and unobtrusive. He does not seek to thrust his information upon the people, but when questioned, answers modestly and intelligibly any questions put to him. The attention paid to him by the government is some guarantee of his respectability and his acquaintance with this subject, and there really does appear such an absence of any reasonable motive to mislead the public that if we do not comprehend all we have heard from him, we are not prepared to disbelieve it. He started yesterday for Cooming to join Mr. Stutchbury, the government geologist, who, we are informed, will accompany him to the diggings. The matter will therefore be quickly placed beyond the reach of suspicion or incredulity.